Tim Hague, known in the fighting world as the Thrashing Machine, was a Canadian mixed martial artist who competed in the heavyweight division. A former kindergarten teacher, Hague brought a gentle and kind spirit outside the cage, which stood in stark contrast to his powerful fighting style. He competed in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, King of the Cage, and various other promotions, amassing a professional record that showcased his knockout power. His journey in combat sports was one of passion and perseverance, and he was a beloved figure in the Canadian MMA community, known for his accessibility and friendly demeanor. Hague also transitioned to professional boxing later in his career, a decision that would ultimately have tragic consequences. Hague's life was cut short in June of 2017, when he was just 33 years old. He sustained a fatal brain injury during a boxing match against Adam Braidwood in Edmonton, Alberta. After being knocked down multiple times, the fight was stopped, but Hague was able to walk to his dressing room. He later collapsed and was transported to a hospital, where he underwent surgery but succumbed to his injuries 2 days later. His death raised significant questions about fighter safety and regulation in combat sports. Tim Hague was laid to rest in his home province of Alberta, Canada. He is interred at the Morinville Cemetery in Morinville. His final resting place is marked by a simple, elegant black headstone bearing his name, dates, and the loving titles of husband, father, son, and brother. Jordan Parsons was a promising American featherweight mixed martial artist known for his tenacity and evolving skill set. Fighting out of the renowned Blackzilians camp in Florida, he was considered a rising star in the sport. Parsons began his career in amateur bouts before turning professional in 2010, quickly building an impressive record in promotions like Championship Fighting Alliance and Legacy FC. He eventually signed with Bellator MMA, where he continued to showcase his talent, earning a reputation as a tough and determined competitor with a bright future ahead of him. His dedication to the sport was evident in his performances, and he was on a trajectory that many believed could lead to championship contention. He was part of a new generation of fighters, well-rounded and professional. Tragically, Jordan Parsons' life and career were abruptly ended in May of 2016, at the young age of 25. He was the victim of a hit-and-run incident in Delray Beach, Florida. While crossing a street in the early morning hours, he was struck by a vehicle whose driver initially fled the scene. Parsons sustained catastrophic injuries, including the amputation of his right leg, and after several days in a coma, he passed away. The driver was later apprehended and faced justice. Jordan Parsons was laid to rest in his home state of Michigan. He is buried at the Oakwood Cemetery in Fargo, St. Clair County. His grave is marked by a headstone that honors his memory, a solemn reminder of a life full of potential that was extinguished far too soon. Shane Del Rosario was a formidable American mixed martial artist and kickboxer who competed in the heavyweight division. He was a two-time WBC Muay Thai World Heavyweight Champion and was known for his exceptional striking ability, particularly his devastating kicks and knees. Del Rosario held an undefeated record in both MMA and kickboxing for a significant portion of his early career, making him one of the most feared heavyweights outside of the major promotions. His success earned him a contract with Strikeforce, where he continued to impress before eventually moving to the Ultimate Fighting Championship. He was widely regarded as a fighter with immense potential, possessing a unique combination of size, athleticism, and technical skill that many believed could take him to the top of the sport. His friendly and humble personality outside the cage made him a fan favorite. In a shocking and tragic turn of events, Shane Del Rosario suffered a full cardiovascular collapse at his home in Newport Beach, California, on November 26, 2013. He was rushed to the hospital and placed on life support but was declared to have no brain activity. It was later determined that he had a rare congenital heart condition called long QT syndrome. He passed away on December 9, 2013, at the age of 30. His death sent shockwaves through the MMA community, highlighting the hidden health risks athletes can face. Shane Del Rosario was laid to rest at Pacific View Memorial Park in Corona del Mar, California. His grave is a peaceful spot overlooking the ocean, a beautiful and serene final tribute to a warrior who left the world far too early. Corey Hill was an American mixed martial artist who gained widespread recognition as a competitor on the 5th season of The Ultimate Fighter reality series. Standing at an imposing 6 feet 4 inches, Hill competed in the lightweight division, making him one of the tallest fighters to ever do so. His incredible height and reach advantage made him a unique and challenging opponent. Before his MMA career, Hill was a collegiate wrestler. He possessed a raw athleticism and a strong desire to learn, which made him a compelling figure on the show and in his subsequent professional career. Despite a devastating leg injury suffered in the octagon in 2008, Hill showed immense resilience by returning to competition after a lengthy recovery, demonstrating his unwavering passion for the sport. Corey Hill's life ended tragically in May of 2015 at the age of just 36. He had been admitted to a hospital in Florida due to respiratory issues. His condition quickly deteriorated, and he was diagnosed with pneumonia, which led to a spontaneous pneumothorax or collapsed lung. Despite medical efforts, he suffered a heart attack and was pronounced dead on May 15th. The suddenness of his passing was a shock to his family, friends, and fans. Corey Hill is buried at the Garden of Memories Cemetery in Webster, Florida. His grave is marked by a flat bronze plaque, a simple and humble memorial for a fighter known for his extraordinary physical attributes and his incredible heart. It serves as a quiet reminder of his fighting spirit. Justin Levens was an American mixed martial artist who competed in the middleweight and light heavyweight divisions. Known for his aggressive fighting style and numerous tattoos, Levens was a journeyman competitor who fought for some of the biggest promotions in the world, including the Ultimate Fighting Championship, the IFL, and the WEC. Levens was a tough and durable fighter who was always willing to stand and trade punches, making his bouts exciting for the fans. He faced a number of high-profile opponents throughout his career and was a recognizable figure in the MMA world during the mid-2000s, a period of explosive growth for the sport. The end of Justin Levens' life was deeply tragic and disturbing. On December 17, 2008, Levens, aged 28, and his wife, Sarah McLean Levens, were found deceased in their condominium in Laguna Niguel, California. Authorities determined the incident to be a murder-suicide. It was reported that Levens had been struggling with injuries and was facing a suspension from the California State Athletic Commission at the time of his death. The news sent a wave of shock and sadness through the MMA community, casting a shadow over the sport and highlighting the personal demons that some athletes face away from the spotlight. Justin Levens is buried at the Rose Hills Memorial Park in Whittier, California. His final resting place is a solemn site that marks the conclusion of a troubled and tragic story. Ryan Jimmo was a Canadian mixed martial artist and a former light heavyweight champion in the Maximum Fighting Championship promotion. Known for his powerful striking, sharp intellect, and quirky personality, which included performing the robot dance after his victories, Jimmo was a popular figure in the sport. He held a black belt in karate and used his traditional martial arts background to great effect in the cage. After a successful run in the Canadian circuit, which included a remarkable 17-fight winning streak, he earned a contract with the Ultimate Fighting Championship. His UFC debut in 2012 was one for the record books, as he knocked out his opponent in just 7 seconds, tying the record for the fastest knockout in UFC history at the time. The circumstances of Ryan Jimmo's death are exceptionally tragic and senseless. On June 26, 2016, Jimmo, aged 34, was involved in a brief altercation with 2 men in the parking lot of a lounge in Edmonton, Alberta. As Jimmo walked away from their vehicle, the men accelerated and ran him over before fleeing the scene. He was transported to a hospital but died from his injuries shortly after. The perpetrators were later arrested and convicted. The MMA world was left in disbelief at such a brutal and cowardly act. Following his death, Ryan Jimmo was cremated. His family held memorials in both Edmonton, where he had made his home, and in his native New Brunswick. His ashes were returned to his family, who keep his memory alive, remembering a man known for his kindness and humor as much as for his skills as a fighter. Josh Salmon was an American mixed martial artist who competed in the middleweight division of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. He was introduced to a wider audience as a contestant on The Ultimate Fighter Team Jones vs. Team Sonnen in 2013. Salmon was a highly intelligent and articulate individual, known for his creative striking and formidable ground game. He was also a talented writer, contributing articles to various MMA websites and authoring a poignant memoir titled The Housekeeper, a brutal journey of love, loss, and redemption. His book detailed his struggles with addiction and the immense personal tragedy of losing his girlfriend in a car accident in 2013. Despite these hardships, Salmon was a resilient and thoughtful person who used his platform to connect with fans on a deeper level. Josh Salmon's life was marked by tragedy, and it ended in one. On September 29, 2016, he was found unresponsive in a South Florida apartment alongside his friend Troy Kirkingberg, who was pronounced dead at the scene. Salmon was rushed to the hospital, where he remained in a coma for nearly a week. He passed away on October 5, 2016, at the age of 28. The cause of death was determined to be a probable drug overdose. The MMA community mourned the loss of a fighter who was not only talented in the cage, but also a gifted and introspective soul. Josh Salmon is buried at the Tallahassee Memory Gardens in Tallahassee, Florida. His grave is a place for reflection on a life that was filled with incredible highs and devastating lows, a reminder of the fragility of the human condition. Amar Suloev was an Armenian-Russian mixed martial artist who was a prominent figure in the sport during the early 2000s. Suloev was known for his dynamic and aggressive style, combining crisp boxing with a dangerous submission game. He competed in some of the world's top organizations, including the Ultimate Fighting Championship, Pride Fighting Championships, and M1 Global. He holds notable victories over several respected fighters and was considered a top-ranked middleweight during his peak. After retiring from MMA in 2008, his life took a drastically different turn, as he became involved in organized crime in Russia, a stark departure from his career as a professional athlete. In 2013, Suloev was arrested and accused of being a contract killer as part of a criminal investigation. While in custody awaiting trial, he was diagnosed with stage 4 stomach cancer. He was eventually released from prison on bail due to his rapidly deteriorating health. Despite his grave prognosis, he maintained his innocence until the end. Amar Suloev passed away from cancer on June 27, 2016, at the age of 40. His death closed a complex and controversial chapter in the history of MMA. He was buried in his hometown of Anapa, in the Krasnodar Krai region of Russia. His final resting place marks the end of a life that encompassed both the glory of professional sports and the dark underworld of crime, a complicated legacy for a fighter who once shone brightly on the world stage. Elias Theodorou was a Canadian mixed martial artist, but he was also much more than just a fighter. Known for his unorthodox but effective fighting style and his incredible cardio, the Spartan won the Ultimate Fighter Nations Canada vs. Australia middleweight tournament in 2014. Throughout his career in the UFC and other promotions, he was a consistently tough competitor. Beyond the cage, Theodorou was a passionate advocate for the use of medical cannabis for athletes. In 2020, he made history by becoming the first professional athlete to receive a therapeutic use exemption for cannabis in North America. He fought tirelessly to destigmatize its use and to champion it as a valid treatment for pain and recovery. His charming personality and flowing hair made him a memorable and beloved figure in the MMA world. Elias Theodorou had been privately battling stage 4 colon cancer, a diagnosis he chose not to share widely. He continued to advocate for his causes and even competed in a professional bout in December of 2021, which he won. His health declined rapidly in the summer of 2022, and he passed away on September 11, 2022, at the age of just 34. His death stunned the combat sports community, as few were aware of the severity of his illness. He faced his disease with the same courage and determination he showed in the octagon. Elias Theodorou is buried at the King City Cemetery in King City, Ontario, Canada. His grave is marked by a beautiful headstone that features an image of him and a heartfelt inscription, a final tribute to a unique and trailblazing individual who fought for his beliefs until the very end. Ryan Gracie was a prominent and fiery member of the legendary Gracie family, the pioneers of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Ryan was known for his highly aggressive and volatile personality, both inside and outside the ring. He was a 4th-degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and translated his grappling prowess into a successful mixed martial arts career, primarily in Japan's Pride Fighting Championships. His wild, brawling style, combined with his elite jiu-jitsu, made him a fan favorite during the golden era of Japanese MMA. He was a charismatic and controversial figure, often involved in street fights and altercations in his native Brazil, which only added to his notorious reputation as the bad boy of the Gracie clan. Ryan Gracie's life came to a tragic and controversial end on December 15, 2007, when he was just 33 years old. He had been arrested in São Paulo, Brazil, for allegedly stealing a car and attempting to steal a motorcycle. While in custody at a police station, he was seen by a psychiatrist who administered a cocktail of drugs to calm him down. He was left alone in a cell and was found dead the next morning. An autopsy later revealed an overdose of medication. The psychiatrist was eventually charged with recklessness. The circumstances surrounding his death remain a point of contention and sorrow. Ryan Gracie is buried in the Cemitério São João Batista in Botafogo, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. His grave is located in the family mausoleum, alongside other revered members of the Gracie dynasty, a final resting place for a fighter whose flame burned intensely but all too briefly. Evan Tanner was a true original in the world of mixed martial arts, a self-taught fighter who rose from humble beginnings in Amarillo, Texas, to become the UFC middleweight champion. Known as a thoughtful and introspective wanderer, Tanner eschewed traditional training camps for much of his career, instead famously teaching himself techniques from instructional videotapes in his small home. This unorthodox approach, combined with his immense heart and relentless pressure, carried him to the pinnacle of the sport. He was a warrior in the truest sense, winning titles in multiple organizations and earning the respect of fans and fellow fighters for his grit and determination. Off the mat, he was a poet, a philosopher, and an adventurer, always seeking new experiences and pushing his personal boundaries. In the late summer of 2008, Tanner embarked on a solo adventure into the desert of Imperial County, California. He rode his motorcycle deep into the wilderness with plans for a minimalist camping trip. Unfortunately, his motorcycle ran out of gas, and he set off on foot in the scorching heat to find water. He tragically misjudged the harshness of the environment. On September 8, 2008, his body was discovered by a search helicopter. The official cause of death was hyperthermia due to environmental exposure. He was 37 years old. His death was not a suicide, as some initially speculated, but a tragic accident befalling an adventurer. Evan Tanner was cremated, and his ashes were scattered by his friends and family in the desert he loved, a fitting final tribute to a free spirit who lived and died on his own terms. Stephan Bonnar, the American Psycho, will forever be immortalized for one legendary fight that arguably saved the Ultimate Fighting Championship and launched mixed martial arts into the mainstream. On April 9, 2005, he faced Forrest Griffin in the finale of the first season of The Ultimate Fighter. The 3-round, non-stop, back-and-forth war was a spectacular display of heart and toughness that captivated millions watching on live television. Though Bonnar lost a unanimous decision, his performance was so heroic that the UFC awarded him a contract anyway. That single bout is widely credited with creating a new generation of MMA fans. Bonnar went on to have a long and respectable career, facing a who's who of the sport's legends. He was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame's Fight Wing in 2013, alongside Griffin for their iconic battle. On December 22, 2022, Stephan Bonnar passed away unexpectedly at the age of 45. The UFC announced that he had died from presumed heart complications while at work. The news was a profound shock to the MMA world, which mourned the loss of a pioneer and a beloved character of the sport. Bonnar was known for his self-deprecating humor and humble nature, always acknowledging the role that one special night played in shaping his life and the sport he loved. Following his passing, Stephan Bonnar was cremated. Details regarding a public memorial or the final disposition of his ashes have been kept private by his family. His legacy, however, is not contained in a physical place, but lives on in the memory of that legendary fight and in the hearts of the fans he inspired. Anthony "Rumble" Johnson was one of the most feared and powerful knockout artists in the history of mixed martial arts. His name was synonymous with terrifying one-punch stopping power. Johnson's career was unique in that he competed in 5 different weight classes, from welterweight all the way up to heavyweight, an almost unheard-of feat. He truly found his home at light heavyweight, where his devastating power was most effective. He challenged for the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship on 2 occasions, falling short both times to the legendary Daniel Cormier. But his path to those title shots was littered with spectacular and brutal knockouts. He retired from the sport in 2017, but made a comeback with Bellator MMA in 2021, proving he still possessed the same fight-ending power. For some time before his death, Johnson had been battling a serious, undisclosed illness. The MMA community was aware he was facing health struggles, but the gravity of his condition was not widely known. On November 13, 2022, Anthony "Rumble" Johnson passed away at the age of 38. The cause of death was organ failure resulting from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and hemophagocytic lymphohistiocytosis, a rare disorder of the immune system. His passing was a heartbreaking loss for the sport. He was remembered as a quiet and humble man outside the cage, a stark contrast to his ferocious fighting persona. Anthony Johnson is buried at the Sunset Memorial Gardens in West Helena, Arkansas. His final resting place is a solemn tribute to a fighter whose incredible power and memorable career left a permanent mark on mixed martial arts. Kevin "The Monster" Randleman was an American mixed martial artist and a former UFC heavyweight champion. He was a powerhouse wrestler, a 2-time NCAA Division I national champion for The Ohio State University. He transitioned to MMA as a protege of fellow wrestling standout Mark Coleman, becoming a core member of the legendary Hammer House team. Randleman was an incredible athlete, possessing a rare combination of explosive power, speed, and raw strength that made him one of the most physically gifted fighters of his era. His career took him from the UFC to Japan's Pride Fighting Championships, where he was involved in some of the most memorable moments in the sport's history, including his shocking knockout of Mirko Cro Cop and the legendary Randleplex slam of Fedor Emelianenko. Randleman's story begins in Sandusky, Ohio, where he was born and raised. From a young age, it was clear that he had a natural gift for athletics, particularly wrestling. His determination and competitive spirit carried him to the highest levels of collegiate wrestling, where he not only competed but dominated. At Ohio State University, he became one of the program's greatest wrestlers, winning 2 NCAA Division I national championships and earning the respect of teammates, coaches, and opponents alike. His relentless work ethic and willingness to push himself beyond limits became trademarks of his athletic identity. Wrestling gave him discipline and confidence, qualities that would later serve him well in the brutal and unforgiving world of mixed martial arts. When Randleman transitioned to MMA, the sport was still in its early stages, raw and unrefined. He entered the cage with the same mindset he carried onto the wrestling mat: to impose his will, break his opponent's spirit, and showcase his athletic superiority. Under the mentorship of Mark Coleman, himself a UFC champion and a pioneer of the ground and pound style, Randleman developed the skills that would allow him to rise quickly through the ranks. His explosive takedowns, punishing slams, and relentless pressure made him a nightmare matchup for anyone in the heavyweight division. In 1999, he captured the UFC Heavyweight Championship, solidifying his place in history as one of the sport's earliest stars. But Randleman's career was not just about championships or wins and losses. It was about moments, spectacular, unforgettable moments that remain etched in MMA history. One of the most famous came in Pride Fighting Championships in Japan, when he faced the feared striker Mirko Cro Cop. Cro Cop was considered one of the most dangerous kickboxers on the planet, known for his lethal left high kick that had ended many careers. Few gave Randleman a chance. Yet, in a stunning turn of events, Randleman landed a thunderous left hook that knocked Cro Cop out cold, shocking the fight world and proving once again that in MMA, anything is possible. Then there was the slam against Fedor Emelianenko, widely regarded as the greatest heavyweight of all time. Randleman delivered one of the most jaw-dropping maneuvers ever witnessed in the sport. He hoisted Fedor high into the air and launched him backward in a German suplex so violent that it seemed impossible Fedor could continue. The crowd gasped. Commentators were stunned, and for a brief moment, it appeared Randleman might have pulled off the impossible. Though Fedor survived and went on to win the fight, that slam, forever remembered as the Randleplex, became iconic, a symbol of Randleman's unmatched power and fearlessness. Beyond his accomplishments in the ring, the Those who knew Randleman spoke often of the man he was outside of competition. Fierce and intimidating inside the cage, he was the opposite in his personal life. Friends, teammates, and fans remember his wide smile, his kindness, and his genuine love for people. He was never too busy to sign an autograph, pose for a picture, or share a laugh. Despite the violence of his profession, he carried himself with warmth and humility, never forgetting his roots or the people who supported him along the way. Like many fighters, Randleman's body bore the scars of his career. Years of wrestling and MMA battles left him with countless injuries and surgeries. He endured more than most could imagine, but his fighting spirit never faded. Unfortunately, the toll of such a physically demanding life is often harsh, and in February of 2016, tragedy struck. While in San Diego, California, Randleman was admitted to the hospital with pneumonia. Complications quickly followed, and he passed away from heart failure at just 44 years old. The MMA community was stunned. Tributes poured in from fighters, coaches, fans, and organizations around the world, each one remembering not just the fighter but the man, the father, the husband, the friend. His death served as a reminder of the sacrifices athletes make and the hidden costs of pushing the body to its extremes. For those who loved and admired him, the loss was not just professional but deeply personal. Kevin Randleman represented the heart of a fighter: courage, resilience, and an unbreakable will. Today, Randleman rests in Las Vegas, Nevada, a city forever linked to the sport of MMA and its growth on the global stage. At Palm Eastern Cemetery, his grave is marked by a modest yet dignified flat black granite plaque. The inscription is simple but profound: "Beloved husband, father, son, and brother." It reflects the roles that truly defined him beyond the cage. For all his accomplishments, for all the moments that thrilled fans, Kevin Randleman's greatest legacy is the love he shared with his family and the inspiration he gave to those who followed his journey. Though gone too soon, his name remains spoken with respect wherever MMA is discussed. Fighters still point to his athleticism and intensity as sources of motivation. Fans still replay his highlight moments, marveling at his strength and explosiveness. Kevin the Monster. Randleman's story is one of triumph, struggle, and humanity. A reminder that legends are not only made by victories, but by the impact they leave behind. His memory endures, carried in the history of the sport he helped shape and in the hearts of those who continue to celebrate his life. Kevin Ferguson, universally known as Kimbo Slice, was a cultural phenomenon whose journey from backyard brawler to professional mixed martial artist captivated the world. He rose to fame in the early 2000s through a series of viral videos showcasing his raw, unsanctioned street fights. With his intimidating presence, gold teeth, and undeniable charisma, he became one of the internet's first viral stars. This grassroots popularity translated into mainstream success. His professional MMA debut for Elite XC in 2007 drew massive television ratings, proving he was a legitimate draw. He later competed on The Ultimate Fighter and fought in both the UFC and Bellator MMA, bringing countless new eyes to the sport. While he never reached the technical heights of the sport's elite, his story and star power were undeniable. On June 6, 2016, Kimbo Slice was admitted to a hospital near his home in Coral Springs, Florida, and died shortly after. He was 42 years old. It was revealed that he had been suffering from congestive heart failure and had a mass on his liver. He had been awaiting a heart transplant at the time of his death. The news of his passing was a shock, as he was scheduled to fight just a month later. He was mourned by fans around the globe who had been drawn to his incredible life story. Kimbo Slice is buried at the Forest Lawn Memorial Garden Central in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. His grave is marked by an impressive headstone featuring a large, etched portrait of him. It stands as a powerful and lasting tribute to a one-of-a-kind figure who transcended the world of combat sports to become a true pop culture icon.